In this video, I take a blowtorch to the M5, discover why the rear suspension is really wobbly, and find a cheap solution to damaged bonnet struts. This is my 2007 BMW E60 M5. I imported the car from Japan around about 1.5 to 2 years ago, and it has kind of been my daily driver for that time period. The engine and gearbox have been faultless, and I haven't really had to do anything to the car. But 2 years of minimal maintenance and letting a few smaller jobs linger have meant that I have got a really long list of jobs that need sorting out on the car. So I'm going to be going to Europe in about a month and a half's time. It's going to be about a 3,000 kilometer road trip. So I'm going to take you around the car and show you what needs doing to it. And in this video series, we're going to be trying to bring back this M5 to some of its former glory. So we'll start off with the front of the car. We can see that there's a few cosmetic things that need sorting out with the car. You can see that the front bumper doesn't quite line up correctly. If you look here, the bolts holding it aren't quite doing the job they're supposed to be doing. The foam behind the bumper, so the crash bar foam, is missing, so the bumper sits a little bit further out than it's supposed to. You can see if I pull it, it lines up as it should. That's because the bumper has nothing to rest on behind it, and it stops this headlamp washer from being able to shut properly. If we have a look down here, we can see that somebody's painted this brace on top of the oil cooler blue. They've got some overspray on the pipes, and we can start to see signs of the oil cooler weeping from the seals, which is a very common problem on these BMWs. If we look down here, the brake ducts are missing on that side. I'm not sure if we've got brake ducts on this side. It looks like the brake ducts are there on that side, but they're certainly missing on the left side. The owner in Japan had 20-inch M4 wheels on this before and had the car significantly lower. You can see that the under trays have been damaged a little bit over there. So we're going to need all new under trays at the front. If we go around to the other side, the under trays are also damaged there, and the washer bottle's actually got a hole. You can see that the front bumper fitment isn't the best here, so we'll get that sorted. As is rather typical of these M cars, the front under trays are all missing. So the SMG under tray is missing, the front bumper under tray is missing, so those will be new parts from BMW. If we have a look here, typical 5 Series E60 problem. The rubber seals on the trims the kick plates here have kind of got damaged. These are quite expensive from BMW, but it's basically a BMW only job because they don't sell the seal separately, and I'm not aware of there being a fix for that. One of the other problems that the car has is when you put it into reverse, nothing comes up on the iDrive screen. The parking sensor display, or the heat map for the parking sensors, doesn't come up. So I'm not quite sure what the issue is. If you're not aware, the Japanese imports have a reverse beep sound, so when the car's in reverse, it just beeps like that, which is kind of annoying. Another typical M car problem is that the bonnet struts don't hold the bonnet up, which is a little bit annoying when you're working on it. I sometimes have to put like a prop in there, but that should be a really easy fix. So this is the infamous S85 V10 engine found on the E60 M5s. This engine has, touch wood, been faultless throughout my ownership. It has required nothing but routine oil changes. The car is hitting around about 82,000 miles now, and I have no recorded evidence that the throttle actuators or the rod bearings have been done on this car. We'll go into rod bearings later on in the video, but we all know they're a bit of an Achilles heel for many BMWs. And for a lot of these V-powered BMWs, they are considered as part of kind of like maintenance now, or a maintenance item on the car. just with a very long interval, you could say. The steering rack has a few leaks on it, little bits and bobs where it may be having a few slow leaks at the bottom of the engine. Will probably get solved when the rod bearings are done. The engine runs as sweet as a nut, so I will show you that now. Dead smooth. Okay, so today we're starting the restoration of the E60 M5. I've got the car jacked up. I've got it on blocks and not axle stands because the road is slightly uneven that I'm working on, and the axle stands dig into the road and they don't sit evenly. I've got notches in the top of the blocks so that the jack points sit in them, so this is really stable and really safe before anybody asks. The first job for today ahead of my European road trip in a few weeks time is to do the rear guide arms that you can see here. The boots are split on these. I'm sure the joints are getting road grime and debris inside there. I'm also going to be replacing the rear control arm. The bush looks to be okay visually, but again the boot is split on the ball joint side. So I've got replacement rear control arms and replacement rear guide arms, which are used to adjust the toe. Okay, we've got our trusty bottle jack here. I personally prefer using these because if you use a floor jack, it's just really bulky and just gets in the way. So I'm doing it till the helper springs on the coilovers kind of take a bit of load and then a little bit more. So that nut is off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that bolt in there for now, and now I'm going to open up the ball joint side. You don't want this dropping just yet. It just keeps things in place. Loosen this side, then we'll drop the arm down and the ball joint can come out that way. Hex driven 10 and a 21. The 21 will slide into the nut here. There we go. Use a pry bar to try and pry this bolt out. There we go. Weirdly, these use fully threaded bolts, so I think what was happening is after years of this, the arm pivoting around the bolt, it's probably cut some threads onto the inner part of the bush. Once this is dropped, it comes out like this. You can see just how worn out the old arm is. You can see that the boot has completely failed. It's basically crumbling away, and there's dirt and grit that have got inside of the joint. One thing you need to be really careful of when replacing these arms is that you have the correct joint on this side. So the arms are sided because of the direction that the ball joint goes into the hub, and you need to make sure that the stud is the correct size and that this has a spherical seat, not a conical seat like some of the other arms do. So make sure you order the correct arm. There is a specific arm for the M5 to put your VIN into real OEM and cross-reference the part number with whatever you're buying, whether it's from the likes of GSF, Euro Car Parts or Autodoc. But I highly recommend going for Lemforder. It's worth paying a bit extra. And because it is OE BMW, you're not having to pay the BMW dealership prices. So we're gonna get this new arm in. It should be super, super simple. And yeah, that's the rear control arm sorted. I'm gonna get the drill. I can clean the seat that the ball joint sits in and make sure that there's no grime or dirt or corrosion there. So yeah, copper grease, it will just help the bolt turn on the threads, especially as it's a locking nut. Any wires sit above the arm because they need to clip into the bracket, and this joint will have to go in first and then you slide the bushing end up. Should all line up easy. Gonna use the 2-finger method. Get it onto the bolt and tighten. So I'm gonna put the 21. What's 9 plus 10? 21. I have elite meme knowledge. I think that this is really as tight as we can get it. I'm not going to put any extensions on there. I don't think it needs to be that tight. But there we go. That's the arm, the outer ball joint done. Going to tighten up the inner now, which is 2/18. And wipe everything, and then we need to clean the clip. So we've got the clip sorted out. I'm going to put that back onto the control arm. We all know that Japanese imports tend to be pretty corrosion free, but there still tends to be a lot of misinformation about them and people who are scared to buy a Japanese import. So if there's one reason to buy a Japanese import BMW over a UK equivalent, I'm going to show you right now what that is. I hadn't loosened the eccentric bolt for the guide arm because I wanted to put these markings so it goes back in the same place. So I'm going to put a 16 on this side, and then I'm going to use a 16 ratchet on the other side. Now just bear in mind, on most UK BMWs that I've worked on, these eccentric bolts are usually corroded, the bolts snap, and they're an absolute pain to open. But just look how easily this opens. So minimal force. And it is literally as easy as that. For the ball joint, we're going to need an 8mm hex. Use an 18mm ratchet. So to open it will be this way. There we go. Just a bit of gentle persuasion. And there is the old arm. Completely knackered, completely perished. Not much you can do with that. So we'll get the replacement in, but you need to be aware of some differences, which I'll talk about in a second. One thing again to be aware of, the guide arms changed after 2005. So they changed the design of the hub, so you had a spherical seat and you have a larger stud. So be very careful when ordering, use real OEM to find the correct part number. Giving the nut and bolt a bit of a clean off, My markings are still there. Unfortunately, the replacements didn't arrive, but I've got to get moving on this project, so I can't wait till the week for the new bolts. I'm going to prep this, and I'm going to put a little bit of copper grease on there. Again, haters gonna hate. Just so things move easily. A little bit of lube, never hurts. You can see here I've cleaned all the aluminium, so there's no dirt left there. Cleaned that side where the nut clamps onto, and just given the seat a little bit of a clean. And just make sure this doesn't move. One eccentric bolt tightened. So now we need to do the ball joint side. Okay, so I've just put this block of wood here so I can there we go. Just to finish everything off with the rear arms, we will clip that back in there, and this can clip in there. New control arms and the guide arms are in. We went for Lemforda control arms and we went for Spidan guide arms. Hopefully this solves the rear end wobble. I've always found the car when changing lanes, or more recently in my ownership, it just dances at the back. I suspect, given how worn out the boots were around the ball joints, there was a lot of play in there. So hopefully this sorts that out, otherwise we've got other problems on our hand. Now we're going to do the brakes all round. So we've got discs, pads, pad sensors, and that'll take us one step closer to going on this European road trip. We are starting the front brakes on the E60 M5. We can see that there's some pretty big lips here. I've measured the thickness of the disc and it's basically at the minimum point. The pads aren't too bad, but we're going to change those anyway, seeing as there's new discs going in. The replacement discs I've got are ATE discs, so these are OEM equivalent. They've got the aluminium bells, and I've gone for Brembo pads, and I've got Delphi replacement pad sensors. Got a variety of different tools out. Mainly the things you're going to need is a H7 Torx for the sliding pins and an 18mm for the actual caliper carrier, and that should be about it. What happens is, because you've got a lip on the disc here, when you try and remove the outer part of the caliper, you're not going to be able to get the pads over that lip, so that's where you need to retract the pistons. It's a bit fiddly to get it in place. So you can see the gap here has increased. I can't tighten this anymore, which means the pistons are as far back as they're going to go. So I'm just going to loosen this off. Okay, so I can't exactly bang the brake disc off because it's a quiet neighborhood. I don't want to kind of like cause any noise. So what I'm going to do is, because the bell is aluminium and there's no sort of like braking components behind the disc like you have on the rear, I'm just going to heat the bell lightly with a blowtorch, and that usually frees the disc up without the need for me to spend ages with a hammer or waste time waiting for like penetrating fluid to clean up the back of the disc. There we go, nice and easy. You can take the old discs away. The old pads. I mean, there's plenty of meat left on them, but they're just gross. So, it's a bit fiddly. Great, putting brand new brakes on and it's raining. That's fun. The show must go on because I've got to get these done today. So the set screws are in. Just going to use a ratchet and nip them tight. They don't need to be very tight, you just don't want them backing off. Slide these in here and just make sure the pads hook into the slots nice and easily. I'll sort out the clips on the pads in a second. Good. There we go. I'll leave these on loosely and do the guide pins next. a big boo-boo with the brakes. Let me show you. So I've just been having a look under the car, and I have just seen that the rear brake flexi hose has a split. Now I think this is just the outer sheath that's split. I don't think the inner is damaged. There is absolutely no way I can drive the car with split brake hoses. So I think it's a good excuse to get some braided flexis in. Bit of preventative maintenance before this actually becomes a big problem. And it's a good opportunity to upgrade that part of the braking system and give the whole braking system a bleed and a flush. So, silver linings. Brake hoses have a couple of different fittings. We've got an 11mm flare nut, which is on this side here. I'll show you that when I start opening it. And the upper fitting is a 17mm. And then we've got a 14mm fitting that goes on the brake hose that goes into the caliper. And we've also got this rubber bung, which is ideal if you can pop it off. You're gonna have to, there we go. And then it should open up by hand. This will drop down and this will put up like that. So this fitting actually has knurlings. The new fittings don't have that. Because this is a fixed hose, you have to do this weird twisty dancey dance like this. Come out. There we go. That's the old crusty brake line, and I'll show you what we're going to be fitting in now. So these are the new HEL stainless steel braided brake lines. So we've got stainless steel fittings. HEL lines are really, really good. This isn't like a sponsored post or anything. Anybody from HEL is watching this, please be my baby daddy and sponsor the channel. Thank you. Got the crush washer on. It helps if you have the correct size gloves on. I ran out of gloves my size and I only had an oversized glove. Aha, it's caught the thread. That took too long. So once it's caught, it's just a case of like curling the hose up and just spinning it until it bottoms out. Just use feel for the next bit. You want your crush washer to crush and seal. You don't want to over tighten this, but you do want it to have a good, like when you feel resistance and it's like I can't tighten it anymore, that's where you want to leave it. Feed this under the sensor wiring. Now if you're lucky like me, like I said earlier, and you've got an import, you should be able to just tighten these in by hands. If your car's a rusty UK car, that may not be possible. Back setup is basically the same. You need a 14mm spanner here, you need an 11mm on the brake flare nut, and then on the back of the caliper here you need another 14 to loosen that up. You have to loosen the flare nut side up first, like we did at the front, and then loosen that side, and then you'll need a crush washer with the new braided lines. There is a washer there that will drop out when you loosen this hose. You'll need to transfer that across to the new braided lines. There is the old hose. At the time, it doesn't help because you're squatting and working on the side of the road. You don't have a proper place to work. Now my hands are getting covered in brake fluids. Now I'm going to have to bleed the entire system. Now, I don't have a fancy pump bleeder, so I can do it on my own. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to get my dad to help me. Actually, I'll probably be the assistant in this case. I'll probably be pumping the brakes and he's going to go around and do all the bleeding. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just always been that way since I was a kid. So anytime we bleed brakes, I'm the one sat in the car, even if I suggest he sits in the car. A little bit of a throwback to you know, holding the torch for your dad while working on the car. And the other lines, other than the one on the rear driver side, which would be the rear passenger side if you've got a left-hand drive car, all of the other ones seem to be in good condition. So I don't quite know what happened to that hose, but anyway, it's good preventative maintenance to change these. They're likely original to the car. So yeah, let's bleed the system. Oh, man, that's tight.
Yeah, too tight.
None of the flare nuts were like that.
It's just too tight, man.
So when we're bleeding the brakes, we're going to start from the side, which is furthest away from the brake master cylinder. So on a right-hand drive UK car, that's going to be the rear left.
Want to stop pumping again?
Okay, pump. Yeah, so we'll do the rear left, rear right, front left, front right. I believe that is the correct combination. Holding.
Okay.
Pump.
Yep. Okay. Hold it there.
If you own a BMW E60 M5 or a high performance car that has oil coolers that sit behind the bumper, I think at least once a year you should be pulling your bumper off to clean up behind it. The oil cooler is right in the way of dirt and debris and greasy kind of crap that you pick up from the road. It can clog up the fins on the cooler and it can clog up the fins on the radiator. I actually pulled my bumper off because I was planning on changing the seals on the oil cooler because it's a notorious place for it to leak. And this has given me a good opportunity to clean everything. Bumper's off and you can see the oil cooler's here. One of the most common points of leaking on the E60 M5 is this sandwich plate here on the oil cooler. There are two O-rings and they tend to leak, or if you've got really unlucky, the welds on this pipe crack and they leak oil, which means you need to replace the whole oil cooler. I thought mine was leaking, but it turns out it isn't. So I've used this as an opportunity to clean out all the grime and dirt buildup behind the oil cooler and on the radiator. So I've just spent a few minutes pulling out all the rubbish between the oil cooler, put it into this bag because it's going to go straight into the bin, and that is all the kind of rubbish that was behind it. So I'm going to use some brake cleaner now and a brush and a hose just to tidy everything up. So we've tidied up the oil cooler now. There's no more grease in the fins of the radiator. I was going to repaint the oil cooler, but I think I'm going to leave that for now because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The road trip is coming up really, really soon. I don't want to be opening any of the oil fittings and creating myself any problems. Plus, if this needs to be repainted, it really needs to come out and be repainted properly. And I don't have time for that at the moment. But yeah, it's looking nice and tidy. It's taken off some of the blue paint there, which I think is a good thing. But we're looking good. Now that we've got the oil cooler cleaned off, I need to refit the bumper, but the aim is to try and make it look like it hasn't come out of a chop shop. So I've gone and bought a front bumper bolt kit from BMW because it was easier than figuring out you know, the individual ones I needed, and bumper holder brackets because the original ones had kind of snapped off. So on the corner, the bumper is held on by two 8mm head bolts and one 10mm head bolts. So hopefully that should get things sitting in the right place and make sure it's all tightened up properly. So we're gonna have a look. Here you can see the old bumper stay. What these do is these slide onto the bumper here and the screws go through these. So it's these which are held onto the inner wings. This is one of the ones I've taken off, and you can see some of the plastic clips have broken off. And what's supposed to happen is when you remove these, you push the bumper inwards to unhook these clips from the wing and then down and out. But I think a lot of people try and force them off, which causes the tabs to break. The liner's going to come out in a bit because I need to change those. There's some new ones that I've got. You'll see what I mean. I've loosened off the wing from the inside, and you can see this is now clipped into place where it's flush with the bumper. Now once we tighten everything into place, it should give a really even gap. We've got this gap looking really nice. We've got this sitting flush when it wasn't sitting flush before. This side's good as well, and this side is looking decent. So the bumper is a lot more presentable until it goes in for a respray. We're going to be changing the arch liners. The underbody trays I'm going to leave to Ultimate Velocity to fit, because they're going to be doing the rod bearings, and it will be a lot easier for them to do that on a ramp than me faffing around on my back on the floor. So you can see that these arch liners are shredded, and I have got new ones from BMW to go in, so I'm gonna get those fitted up now. This is nearly £1,000 worth of plastic. We've got arch liners, a front under tray, some new exhaust gaskets and bolts and copper nuts, because we've got an exhaust coming for the car, SMG under tray, and we've got a driver's side floor pan under tray. So now we've got to get them onto the car. I think it's crazy how something as simple as plastic arch liners can completely transform the aesthetic of the car. The wheel wells are looking so much cleaner now. But now that they're on, it brings us to the conclusion of this video. It's time to put the wheels back on, get the car on the floor, and in the next video, I'm going to be looking at the rod bearings, unleashing the sound of the V10 engine, and you'll be finding out if this E60 M5 can make it from the UK to Milan and back again in one piece. So if you enjoyed this content, please hit that subscribe button to be notified when the next video drops.